everybody.
Hey.
Me and Carolyn Clapper is a medium, and I was a professional skeptic and fact checker. My name is Kim LaCapria, and today we're going to do a thing we've been trying to do for a long time. Everything you want to know about the afterlife. And we're probably not going to touch on every single thing. We realized recently we're probably going to have to put this into like a two-parter. So if anything gets missed, please leave it in the comments. Let us know. And we may skip some questions. And if it's a question that you want answered, let us know because we want to know what you want to know too. So we pulled together a whole bunch of questions. Sorry, I know,
Thanks, Carol.
Carolyn, do you want to say
No,
it?
no, no. I appreciate them sending in questions too. So I'm hearing some of these for the first time also. So I'll
Oh,
just
and then
answer as
also,
honestly and as best as I can.
yeah, because a lot of these they're very like broad questions. But another thing that I wanted to say as a disclaimer at the beginning is, in case you haven't seen any of our earlier episodes where we talk about our relationship and how we know each other and all these things, I'm widowed, but I have a continuing relationship with my husband, which is very uncommon. So that will be a context that you hear a lot with me and Carolyn. But most widows repartner, and that's very normal and very. We'll go into that during this episode, but I am an outlier, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that everybody should do what I do because it's very, very not easy. So I just wanted to say that because I think it's very easy for other widows to think that I think that everybody should do this, and I don't. It's a very small fraction of widows. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And I think it's important to say that because we're not trying to say that my answers are the answers for everybody or yours, right? And
Yeah,
everyone makes decisions for themselves. And it's like you've chosen to not, repartner. But
I chose that when I was still a materialist. I don't know if I ever
yeah.
I knew
That's
that kind
important
of
to
right
mention,
away.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
because
that's
I
really
didn't,
important to
when I
mention.
say when I was a materialist, what I mean was until I spoke to Carolyn for the first time, I didn't believe that consciousness survived death. I didn't believe in an afterlife. I didn't believe in heaven. I didn't believe in angels or unicorns or any of those things. And I still say I don't
How dare
believe.
you?
Well, no, but I don't believe in an afterlife. I know consciousness survives death based on the evidence that Carolyn has provided, and other evidence too, but most of it has come from Carolyn. So that's kind of where I am because I don't think belief matters. I mean, when I didn't believe in an afterlife, it still existed. My belief has no bearing on it. So I think it's important to say. And I still consider myself an atheist. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive.
Ooh, I
So do you want to
agree
go to
with
the
that.
questions? No, I know.
Yeah, let's
I'm
just
always trying
dive
to
right
refute.
into it.
But I always
Let's
tell
dive
Carolyn I
there.
think she's an atheist too, because me and Carolyn kind of have similar beliefs. Okay, so we will dive into the
And I'm
questions.
also a skeptic, so
She
I
is a
don't even
skeptic.
care that everybody's skeptical of me because it's something that I completely knew was going to happen when I came into mediumship after my NDE. So I was like, oh, here we go. Because
Yeah, and
I'm a
one of the
skeptic and
reasons,
I didn't believe in mediums
yeah, she
before
didn't.
my
Like, she's
NDE.
told me that for years. But also, one of the reasons we wanted to do this is because for years I've been saying, like, Carolyn gets interesting information, but it's always in a one-to-one setting, or almost always. It's usually with a client. So that client knows, and Carolyn knows if she remembers, but she can't remember all her readings, obviously. So it just kind of, that information never gets out. So people get personalized information and some generalized information, but there's not really a good resource for the questions that keep people up at night. And that's why we wanted to do this video too, because I remember when I was early, like into this, like the first few months, and after I had interacted with Carolyn, I had so many questions and I was up all night watching videos, and a lot of people are doing that. So we want to answer the questions that you guys are trying to get answered at 2 o'clock in the morning. And again, let us know if you have more, because one of the things we want to do with this podcast is like make it easier for people to exist when they're actively grieving, because we both know it is really, really hard to exist in the world,
Yeah,
when that happens. So we can
yeah.
like start with, because the first question we have is like a really big one. So we were talking about it just kind of being a big, hard to answer question. So
And it's
that was
interesting because like Kim asks me questions once in a while, if we're just conversating like outside of this. And sometimes I'm like, wait, isn't this obvious? Like, doesn't
yeah.
everybody know this? And, I talk to other people that I'm really close with, right? And things will come up and they'll ask me something, or I'll say something like expecting that everyone knows what I'm talking about. And they all, like you and Bob, and, like kind of people who talk to me all the time are like, no, like not everybody knows this. And I
And
think
that
I
goes in
take for granted.
reverse.
Yeah.
Because also
Yeah.
I'll say things to Carolyn that are things everybody believes are true about the
Right.
afterlife. If you look at this information, and she's like, I've never, no, I don't think that's a thing. And it's so strange because every other
Right.
medium will be saying it, and she's not only never encountered it but never heard of it. So there are a lot of ideas out there that I think just also take on a life of their own. And there's one of those in there that we're going to get to.
Oh, and I want to mention, like, and this is not bragging at all, because I don't think that being ignorant is ever really a good thing. But because I'm writing a book right now, I have like remained ignorant, like choicefully ignorant of the field that I'm in. So even though I'm in it, I'm kind of like a lone wolf on the outskirts, because because I don't want to adopt other people's language in the field, and I also don't want to like regurgitate like what they're saying. Um, and I'm not saying that this is everybody in the field or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that, like, maybe if you're studying mediumship or spirituality or something, you'll just hear things over and over and over, read them over and over and over, and then you just think, okay, well, that is that. And then they adopt those things into like their own dialogue.
You're
And
so right,
they,
though. This is a huge thing. Like in the
yeah.
communities where it really does. You're right. Like it's a huge thing.
And I think some of that is probably true. Like, I would probably align with some of what people are saying, because, like, maybe they're just fundamental truths that we all tap into, meaning, like, everybody that's capable of tapping into the next world or whatever, or into that space. I think, like, there may be some consistencies between what I'm about to say and what they say. But what I will say is that when I hear something that doesn't align with anything I've been shown or have experienced over the past, oh my God, it's been 15 years, Kim, since
I know.
2011, girl. Okay, so 15 years, then I'm gonna say it. And it doesn't mean that I'm right. I'm not saying that I'm all knowing by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna pacify people, and I'm not gonna tell people what they want to hear. I'm just gonna tell people the way that I see things and what I know to be like my truth. So
Yeah, and when
hopefully it'll
people are
help some
grieving,
people. I don't know.
it does. It really does help because a lot of the stuff that's just kind of like, oh yeah, everything is great and wonderful and that's all you need to know, that makes people feel worse because A, they feel like it's a lie, and B, they feel like the person lost their personality. Which again, we will like get to that because that's in the
Yeah.
questions. And that also, I was just thinking of me and Carolyn had a conversation right before we started filming, and we were talking about how some of the questions are a bit broad, and I was saying it's like asking, where do Kim and Carolyn live? We live in different states. So, it's kind of like a lot of times questions assume, like a relatedness to them that's not there.
Mhm.
So, okay, so do you want me to start with the first one? Because that was
Let's,
like the one that was
yeah,
the big
let's go.
one. Okay. So
Let's
the
go.
first question is, and a lot of people ask this, is what do they do all day in the afterlife?
So they meaning spirit and people who
Yes,
have crossed
spirits.
over. Okay, so what do they do all day? So this is what you were just talking about. I wanted to kind of knock this out right away because there's
It's
no
they
one
watch us
answer.
pee, right? They watch us pee all day.
Oh yeah. That's that's their whole
Sorry,
thing.
Judith. Yeah.
Every one of them, that's their jam. It's like a fetish over it. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. So no. So like it's funny because like people have asked me that just singularly, like in a reading I've had, not many times, but like some people will ask like, hey, what is he or what is she doing or whatever. And I may get some information back from that one person that they're talking to, or the people that they're talking to in spirit during that session or whatever. And it's very like specified to who they are. So I mean that's kind of like asking, okay, how did, this is the best way I can put it. That's like somebody saying, what do humans do all day? It's just like it's such a broad question that it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, they're not all doing the same thing. And I think like that's something that is comforting for me because like okay, well, when I was growing up, I saw spirits, but I couldn't communicate with them. And they were like in my house growing up. So I've always kind of had an ability. I just wasn't able to like utilize it until my NDE. But that said, like when I was growing up, I was also raised in church. So I was baptized, I was raised in church and everything. And I was taught like you go to heaven and then like everything's like really happy and peaceful, and everybody's, I always imagined it was like white fluffy clouds and
Yeah.
like angels, and everybody
Hearts.
was happy and like peaceful, and you're just kind of like existing in this happy state. But I also was like, God, that's boring. Because I've
Yeah.
always been a really adventurous person and like just curious. And like I said, I was a skeptical person as well. So I was, I mean, have this level of discernment and, critical thinking. And I'm always wanting to investigate and like dig into things deeper, like when I don't understand something. And that's part of the joy of life. Like that's part, I think like part of life, like the joy of life is learning.
Yeah.
And you're still learning over there, and you're still having experiences, like you're still growing. And I think that's important for people to know here.
Yeah, it is.
So, I
Because
mean, everybody's experience over there is equally as unique to their experience here, is how I see it. Again, I am no expert on anything, but that's what I've kind of gained from talking to probably thousands of people in this
yeah,
field
and I
and the
think
next.
a lot of that question too exists in the other questions because they kind of go, there's a lot of them that go into what goes on over there. And the one
Mhm.
after that was another one that's frequently asked, and I said to Carol, and I think you probably get this a lot, and it's, are they okay? Like when somebody crosses over or whatever, I don't want to say any words that will upset YouTube. When
Okay.
that happens, are they necessarily okay? Or in general, like, because I think there's also
Are
a
you
lot of,
thinking about like when people as well, when they
well,
like
that's
maybe
one of,
take their own
yeah.
lives or something?
Well,
Okay.
both of those things, but just in general. And I think also that kind of is the question. And there's this belief, and maybe we can kind of like put these two together,
Yeah, like let's
that
go.
there are earthbound spirits that can't leave Earth. And that's a really common thing. And if you're interacting with somebody, they're stuck here. Um,
Mm, mm, mm,
so are
mm.
they okay? And are there people who are just like trapped here? Is that a common thing that happens?
I have theories on this. Again, like I don't like I'm basing this on what I can see and what I've been shown and
Yeah.
everything like that. So we're gonna go off of that, okay? Because I don't consider myself all knowing. Um, so I have been in places that are haunted, okay? They do exist. I've been able to see who's
Scary door. Sorry.
stuck, yeah, who's like trapped or stuck. Um, like it does look that way. Like when you're in the space, it feels that way and it can look that way and it can come across that way. But I'm not positive that they're actually stuck. I'm not sure if they're just wanting to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like they
like
may
it's a
just
choice. So
want
that's
it
what I
to
was
inhabit.
thinking.
Yeah, because they may just want to inhabit that space. Like I ran into somebody, a couple of people actually, at like this big old mansion that I read for a relative friend of mine. And then they found all, like, so all these people came through in this particular location at this house that I would consider as haunted. And the people that I was reading for, they went over to the historical society and all this kind of stuff, and they found the information. They were able to find the people that I spoke to, and like actually like, I don't know, I guess like find the evidence, right? So
Like
they went and they
validate
found all
what you
the,
said.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Like validate all the information that came through. Um, at that place, I also found like tunnels and stuff. It's a whole story. But anyways, we'll get into that like another time. And then the city went and investigated. It's crazy. But so yeah, there are some places that I feel have like
Mhm.
old residents, or you know what I mean? Like I guess what people would consider as haunted, um, or souls trapped. But again, the people in that house, well, I say people, the spirits in that house, I felt like they wanted to be there. Like they're
Yeah,
like,
and
this is our
also
house.
like when
So
you're
like,
doing readings, like when you
mhm.
do a reading, for the most part, the people that you connect with over there, are they what you would say are like okay? You know what I mean? Like are they where they're supposed to? Like for the most part, is that like the norm?
Well, I want to continue about like the are
Yeah,
they
yeah,
trapped thing for a second, because like at the mansion that I'm talking about, I'm just kind of like honing into that space right now.
yeah,
There's been several spaces like that, but this particular house, it seemed like there was a couple people that were speaking to me that were, sorry, a couple spirits that were speaking to me. Um, and they knew that they were dead, and they knew that they were like, they knew they were communicating with me, and they knew that we were in a different realm. It's like they're very aware and conscious of what's
yeah.
going on. So they were like, no, this is my house. You know what I mean?
Okay,
And
yeah,
I'm
that
like,
makes
okay.
sense. Yeah, because
And
it's like
then,
that's where they want to be.
well, and it was theirs before. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, it's more like the person that I was reading for is the intruder into their space and not the
Yeah.
other way around. So that's kind of interesting. But then there was also spirits that went by me that it felt like they were just, I was viewing them, but they weren't seeing me. So that's a really
Yeah.
interesting, I
It
don't know
is.
what to make of that. Like,
I mean,
are they
that's
stuck there or am I seeing like past imprints of what happened? I don't know. So again, I don't know about a few things. I don't know how to interpret that. Um, as far as our people are okay, it's like asking again, it's a very broad question. It's like, is everybody here okay? Like
yeah.
on the planet, is everybody okay? And I'm not teasing and I don't
No,
think
I
it's
know.
funny. I understand that feeling because before my NDE, after my parents died, like I lost them 1 year apart and I was not old enough. I didn't feel old
Yeah.
enough to lose my
She was very
parents.
young.
And so like I was very lost and I was like, where are they? Where are they? It's like I couldn't
Yeah.
access them and I just wanted to know they were okay. So like I get that pain. I understand it.
Carolyn, do
Yeah.
you remember? Sorry, you won't remember, but in our first reading, so that was like a very emotional thing, obviously. And also, I was contending with the fact that consciousness, I didn't know that. You said, you were like, I wish I could show you. You're like, I wish I
Mm,
could show you because it's so close. And you're like, it's like
mm,
1 foot above us. And then you compared it to Nintendo. And you're like, when you go to the second level and you can't
mm,
go back to the first
yeah.
level. Yeah.
That's
So
what
it
I
was like,
always say to people. Right. So that's what I compare it to because that's how I see it in my head. But it's like, is everybody okay? They come across as being okay because they're accessing me and they're communicating with me to
yeah,
communicate with you. So they're going to come through in a session as informative and they look okay to me. So they don't come through like were say they had
like
head
they died in
trauma.
a violent way.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. So I don't want to like trigger anybody right
Yeah.
now, but like let me just say like say they died in a really traumatic way that may have looked shocking to people here when they left. Say their body wasn't fully intact or it was badly damaged or something, and that left a really scary or sad and horrific imprint on their loved ones. They come through normal to me. They come through like Kim is right now, or like I am. Like, I'm not saying we're normal, we're very far from normal, but like
Normal for
literally
us.
just normal
Yeah.
looking, okay? Like, excuse me, I've aged, okay, but I'm still normal. Anyway, so they come through normal. Sometimes they come through like they'll come through how they looked when like the age that they passed or something, but then sometimes they'll like kind of go back into, I know this sounds weird, like they're morphing or something, but I can see them younger too, um if it pertains to the reading, and I feel like they do want to be their healthy self. Now I don't know if that's a choice for everybody. I don't know if everyone has the choice to come back at a certain age or if they have access to shifting ages over there. It's
I
just,
have a
I
theory
can get
about
more
this.
into that.
Yeah, we
Hmm?
don't have to go into I have a theory about it, but basically, well, I gotta say it really quickly. My theory is that when we're on Earth, we have to age because we have to leave at some point. We can't be here forever. So you can like die of old age, or you can die of something else before that. But I think that when we're over there, since we don't have to age, there's a point in everybody's life where you stop growing and then you plateau and then you start aging. And I think that's like the default age that we are. I think aging just exists on this
Mm-hmm.
plane because we can't,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise there'd be 1,000-year-olds walking around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So that's
definitely.
kind of like my theory about the age thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have bodies and this is the meat world. I mean, this is
Yeah.
like, meat goes bad after a while, it just goes bad. And so unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with here. Our
Yeah. And
packages just, they
well,
die
that because the other,
eventually.
me and Carolyn were
Yeah.
talking, that just reminded me like a day or two ago, and this has happened like 5 or 6 times in the past few weeks, where you've
Mm,
expressed like you're like, oh, like I feel bad that he's not here. You can't like be with him physically, and then I start saying like, oh yeah, but, and then we were kind of, it's almost like
mm-hmm.
reverse now, where Carolyn feels a little bit like sad, and then I said to Carolyn, I feel like his body is a car he crashed. Like he's not driving that car anymore, but that's not
Right.
what I associate him with anymore. So you know what I mean? That's how
I
I view
just
it, but
sometimes
also,
feel so bad because it's like I know that Kim has chosen to not repartner, and that's
yeah.
none of my, and I don't judge it. It's none of my business. it's my only my business because I care about her and love her. And
Yeah,
I
and because
also
like
care
and
about
him
her
too.
partner and love him. And so we have a different type of relationship, and she's not
Yeah.
the only person that I've read for and that I've come to know and love who has chosen to not repartner, and that's okay. And it's not something that I push on anybody. I want people to know
Yeah.
that, like, that is not
Yeah,
a
this came up
concept that I
organically.
push. Yeah.
We talked about this in episode 1. When I sprang that on Carolyn in the middle of a reading, and she was like, "Wait, what? Wait, hold on." And then one of the things that was like really stunning about that was she managed to process it in the moment, which was probably something she'd never heard before. It was a little bit strange. And you dealt with that question. You fielded it, like, and that was really cool. But she didn't
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, he still loves you, like you shouldn't remarry." Like, you told me that that he would find somebody for me if that's what I wanted. And then I was like, "I don't want that." And that's kind of where that came from. So
But here, it's also way more in depth than that. Like, okay, like, can I say his name
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
no?
you can say his name. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay, so I call him Joe. But
Yeah.
so, because he has two names for, like, I have two names for him, okay, that came through a reading. So he has a
And
nickname
I
and then
always
he's
say
got his
my
real name.
husband because I call him baby and he calls me baby. So like I used his name like 5 times.
But he
Like in
also
his
has a nickname that everybody else calls him that he
yeah.
told me during one of our readings. And so, what I wanted to tell you is that, like with Joe, okay, everybody is really unique. Joe is like, oh my God, he's so fucking I love him. I love
Yeah.
him and Kim together. Like I cannot like see them apart either. Like I can't when I think of Kim, I think of Kim and Joe. When I think of Joe, I
Yeah.
think of Joe and Kim. And so it's like they're very coupley couple. They're just like a very I don't know,
Which
they're
is
like
also
one
funny
person
because
kind
we
of.
were so anti that, like we were anti-marriage, but we really you're
Yeah.
right. Like that was like our dirty secret,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Like
and
very
they're both.
secretly coupling.
So he was a linguistic person. So he's very, very vocal. And well, actually not. Like he's okay. Well, I don't want to give everything away because then if somebody else
Well, no,
reads
she
for you and
got
they
into
see
a
this,
fight with him. She got into a fight with him yesterday, which I thought was hilarious because
he corrects me all the time and he corrects Kim all the
constantly,
time. And I'll forget that he's in the room. Like I will legit, I'll be talking to Kim and all
but
of
he
a sudden it's like,
hides.
yeah. And Joe is like a tall dude. He is like not somebody who can hide, but he's so sneaky.
He's
And
like door frame height.
yeah. So he's like an archangel type presence in a way, right? Like he's just
Yeah.
kind of massive. And
Yeah.
especially because Kim's so small. Like I'm a tall girl, but Kim is so tiny that it's like it's just like an unlikely match. And it's so cute because
Yeah.
like their size difference is so exceptional, like in my head.
Yeah.
So like I don't know how Joe blends into the background so well, how he's capable of doing that, but he does it all the time. And then if I'm saying something, he'll just pop in. So that's kind of our relationship now. Like
Yeah.
when I'm not reading for Kim, it's like professionally reading for her and trying to get information for her or focusing on that. He pops in
Yeah, he
at
just hangs out.
random
Yeah.
constantly. So
It's
that'll
like he's in the
probably happen
kitchen and
on
then he
this
walks
show.
in. Yeah, it will
If
definitely
well,
happen.
most of the time he's on the couch and he's like just
Yeah.
chilling on the couch, right? And so like he and I have some things in common. And he reminds me a lot of my friend who's passed over who's named Joel. And they both have very similar nicknames and similar hobbies. And so I mean, there's just so much information that comes through. It's incredible. And so I was getting to a point with this. So when um okay, so when they were talking about not like recoupling or whatever, like repairing, okay? Like I don't allow people to speak in my readings. Like I mean
She
I'm not
really
like
doesn't. Like when people say that, but I need you to know she really doesn't. Like she's no, stop, stop, stop. Don't say anything. And it's like it's hard because you want to be like, "Oh no, no." And she doesn't, she really doesn't. Like she means that when she says it. It's really true. Like she does not let you say stuff because it will mess up what she's getting. But sorry, go ahead.
because I don't want it to affect the information that's coming through, but I really do actually care about what people want to tell me because I'm invested in you. I'm invested
You
in your
say tell me at the
story and
end.
yeah, because I love people and I love you. I have compassion for you, I have empathy for you, and I don't want to be rude and be like, shut up. But I think if I went to a medium, like it'd be really hard for me to like take the away the information and then be like discern like if I was telling them stuff the whole time, then I'd be like, wait, did I lead them to this or did I wouldn't want to question it afterwards. So like
Yeah.
I just treat it as how I would treat it if I was sitting with somebody like me. Okay. But that said, like Joe brought through all of this intimate stuff about you, which we won't get into today because it's super intimate. And it's like people in spirit with me, like they bring through in incredible detail, and that's why people sometimes are tongue-tied if they're trying to tell somebody else about a reading with me. It's like, and this isn't me
Yeah.
gloating about my readings, because
No,
the
she's right,
information that
Carolyn.
comes through, the credit is, it belongs to spirit, not me. But I'm just letting you know, they bring through incredible evidence. Like,
They
okay,
really
like
do.
this is the position they liked in bed. Like, dude, this is, she loved it like this, and like, you know, she was, she had an issue getting wet down. I mean, I know I'm being dirty right now, but
No,
it's
I
like
know, but
they'll
that's what
tell
they
me, hey, she had an issue getting wet down there and we had to use this lube and it gave her an allergic reaction, so then we had to use this and this and this, but she started taking this and then this was better or whatever. And oh, and they'll get into all of these details, or they'll say like, oh, I used to
wait.
kiss her up her thigh and she loved it like right here by her birthmark or something. They'll
I
get
want,
into things that are really saucy
yeah, and
and
I want
crappy
everybody to remember
if I
that.
let
Like,
them.
when somebody says mediums are vague, or the information that people say mediums give them are vague, I want you to remember exactly what Carolyn just said. Because I was saying, like, I was thinking too, in my first reading, and we've talked about this, there's a perfect example of that, but I can't say it because it's too dirty for YouTube. Like, it wasn't,
Yeah.
Carolyn got this trip that we went on, and she said he left the hotel room, he went downstairs, he bought three things. She described them to me exactly, but she didn't know what they were, and I did. And I can't, again, if I say what they are, this video will get like blocked and downranked there. They were just
We're gonna
personal
get blocked
items.
so many times.
Yeah,
Why are we always
no, no,
censored? It's terrible. And it's like I'm trying so hard to be good right now, but
no,
it's
you're
like,
being
can't we
really
just
good.
like,
You
I
haven't you
know,
haven't
but
said
it's
anything.
boring. Like I
No,
don't
I
want
know.
to have to be good. Why
Well,
is
we
this so
we
censored?
can do live streams later that are less censored. Like,
Oh, we'll
that's
do
something we're gonna,
slumber
yeah.
parties, Kim. We'll do
We are
slumber
definitely doing
parties where we
slumber
can talk about
parties.
all kinds of stuff and
Yeah,
unpack it all. Yeah,
because
that's what we'll
everybody
do.
does want to know, because the sex thing too is like, and I mean, I don't think that's a banned word, but the thing with that is like, it is a thing that widows think about a lot and they don't want to ask. So, we talk about that because it's a big part of any
It's
relationship.
crazy though, because it's such a big part of a
It
relationship. It's
is.
like, and everyone's intimacy is different. Everybody's intimacy is unique. And it's like to have that be off the table when they
Yeah,
cross over, that's insane to me. I think that would bother me as far as like partnership is concerned, like losing a lover. Now,
yeah,
I sit with a lot of people that aren't widowed or who
yeah,
haven't lost a partner. Like I sit with people who have lost children, and obviously none of this stuff comes up. I sit with people from all walks, right, of life, and who
yeah,
have
and for all
lost
different
people in all walks
reasons.
of the, yes, exactly. So, I mean, but we're kind of focused on that because, this is like Kim, talks to a lot of widows and
Yeah,
widowers and things like that. Well, I guess I talk to the widowers. Anyway,
yeah.
what's your next question?
Next question. Sorry. Okay. So after that, and this is one we might want to skip. It was about the onboarding process, about when you get there. So like that, we can do that one now, or we could do that as like a longer thing later, which is just kind of like when
Mm,
you get there, what happens.
again, it's different for everybody.
Yeah. And
God, this
also
is
that might
hard.
be
I feel like
something.
people are gonna be like, "Nah, this sucks," because
Wait.
it's like, well, sorry, but it is different. It's unique for everybody. And
Well, I think the one
so,
after that might be more answerable, which was the where do
I
people
can
go and
answer. I can
stay?
give you examples of all these. That's the thing, is I can provide examples of what it's like that could give you an idea, but it's like everyone's passing is going to be a bit unique to them because they're
Well, I
going to
was just
see different
thinking
people. They're going to have different experiences. Like
we could
that's like
also
saying,
talk about that.
how is every family reunion that in the whole world? How
Yeah.
does everybody, what is everybody's family reunion like? It's like,
And I think because it's so diverse, I was just thinking we could probably do that when we talk, because in a future episode, we're going to talk about Carolyn's ND because it's a huge topic of interest and it's a big part of like her story. So maybe we could talk about that in the second half of that episode because then we can get into it in depth. Does that make sense?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, because then
Yeah.
that they kind of go together. Because also the question after that was and we talked about this one, and it's where do they go or stay? But I think that's more like, do they live in houses? You know what I mean? Like, is there a
Yeah.
pattern of life? But like, yeah, where are they existing right now?
in the next world. That's what I
No, okay,
call
so
it. No, I'm joking.
I don't want to
But yeah,
necessarily use
so
him as an example, but like where do the if they have a house here, do they live in a version of that house
so what
sometimes?
I so again, it's like I have sat with a lot of different people, and like there's several people have asked me like, well, what are they up to? Like, what are they doing? And every single time it's something different. So it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like it is here. It's like, yeah, I've had, you know, people who have been partnered up, and like their partner over there is like, I am, I have land, I'm in, like they show me like they're in this space and they'll describe it to me, right? And then their partner who I'm talking with will be like, oh my God, that was our dream. That was our dream.
Oh,
Like
cool.
that I wanted to live in that type of house in that location. And like now my partner is there and their partner is like, yes, I'm waiting for you and I've got our dream place.
Oh
And
my
it's
God, yeah, that's
super, super
awesome.
sweet. Yeah.
That is
And
sweet.
so like that's just one example though. And
Yeah.
it's not
No, but that's a
everybody.
perfect example because
Yeah.
that answers the question. It's like I think when people ask that they want to know, are they just kind of like wandering around the street? You know what I mean? It's like, do they have somewhere to go? And that kind they can have a place to go to if they want to.
I've also had people come through like okay, sorry. I sit with so many people. It's like hard for me to like hone into
No,
like
I
one.
know. Also,
Okay,
you
so
look
like
so
right.
cute. You look so cute right now. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So do you, and I love
Okay.
your shirt. It's like my favorite. I'm stealing it when I
Yeah, we
come to
have
New
to get
York.
matching ones.
Yeah, I want it, and I'm just gonna steal yours because there's not gonna be
We'll
another
put them in our
matching
merch
one.
store eventually.
Okay, we can do tradesies.
We
But
can always.
so, oh my God, what was I gonna say?
So we're sorry, we're talking
Oh
about,
yeah,
where they go,
right.
where they
So,
exist.
and that automatically made me think of like Casey and Dana for some
Yeah.
reason. So, okay, so Dana and Casey were clients of mine, and Dana is passed over now. So I read for her and he for years, mostly her. And it's interesting because like not okay, this is like I've read for them a trillion times, like just like literally so many times. And what's interesting, excuse me, what's interesting is that I saw Dana at this I don't even know, it was like a retreat, and she was this is recent, like semi recently. So I saw her at this retreat and she was like walking around, she's rounding the troops and she's going through different spaces and stuff and like different rooms. And that girl, she was so skinny before she died. She couldn't eat anything because her poor body was just falling apart. She couldn't enjoy just the simple things in life like food, which most of us take for granted. And
Yeah.
so the whole time she was like pulling candy out of her pockets and eating it and like talking.
I love
And she's
that.
like, yes. And she looks so healthy and she's so gorgeous and I love her so much. And, but she was like coming through and she's talking. She brings me into this bedroom. Like it was just one of the rooms at the place that they were staying at. And she's like talking to me and she's like got a sucker and she's doing all, you know what I mean? Like she's just eating candy and I'm like, girl, and she's like, hey, I didn't get to eat candy like for so long. So fuck that. Like I'm eating candy all the time.
That's
And
awesome.
so, but she was coming through to tell me some important information to him.
So that's
And
just where she was. She was just so what you're saying too is like she was giving you a message for him, but she was showing
you
you where
gotta let
she
me finish
was.
this though.
Yeah.
And I hope that
Yes.
he's not mad at me for sharing this. But like then so then right afterwards I spoke with Casey and he was like, oh my God, he's like, what did it look like, the space? And so I described it to him, and I think I may have even like sketched him something and shown him. And he's like, oh my God, yeah, that's totally the retreat I was at. And so she was with him at the
Oh my
retreat.
God. I was not
Yes.
expecting that twist. Oh my God. You totally M. Night Shyamalan me.
Yeah. Isn't that so
No, that also,
cute?
yes, it is. And
And
I
those
want
are
to
like two
sidebar.
of my favorite people. So like you
Yes.
and Joe are like really, I'm not trying to play favorites. I love everybody,
No,
but
it's
like
not
when you
that.
get to know, like I sometimes people stick in your life
Yeah.
and it's not all the time, but when they do,
Well,
it's
I
like
also, can I say a
you're that
side thing?
soft
Just,
place. Yeah.
there's like an important, because Carolyn, she really does care about them both a lot. But
Yeah.
when Dana died, that was okay. So people think, I think that Carolyn is exempted from grieving because of her ability that and
Yeah.
she was grieving a lot for a long time, and it wasn't like strange in the sense that I was like, hey, you're not allowed to. It was the first time that she was, I could feel it immediately when when you were grieving, like you don't get spared that. So I just want to say that, like, to anybody who thinks that, like, if
Yeah.
you could do it, Carolyn could do, no, she has to, she suffers just like we do when people die. It's like, it's not, I don't think that's negotiable. I think that's part of the
I feel
experience.
like I feel like I'm lucky because I can see, like, I know for certain that this doesn't end here. And I feel like just knowing that and like being able to access the next world, like people in it all the time on an everyday basis, like every second basis if I want to. It's like, yeah, like if I wasn't me, I would, and I was grieving, I would probably be envious or jealous of that, and I would be like,
Yeah.
"Dude, I want that." Like, I get that. I understand, like, because that's I'm sure that I would feel that a little bit of that way as well.
Yeah.
But it's like at the same time, it's like Kim said, it's like when then it's like when somebody that I love passes, and I'm missing their physical self, and I'm just missing their voice because I don't get
Yeah.
audio. Like,
Yeah.
I do miss their voice, and I miss their just, like, our conversations, like, our fluid conversations like you and I are having right now.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean?
Because
Not
there is a
depending on
difference. Yeah.
there's a
You know,
huge
it's not
difference.
there's a huge
Yeah.
difference.
And it's like and I feel like the pain from others around them, what they're going through, and I feel like because I'm a medium and because they trust me and because they know all the information that comes through me is real and, like, you know what I mean? It's like I need to do my best to remain, like, grounded, and
Yeah.
I need to, like, I guess I have to, like, I try my best to be here for other people rather than, like,
No, this
being
is like the back
selfish and
end.
grieving.
We were talking about the back end of stuff, but the back end of mediumship that people, and I've been seeing this since the beginning, it just kind of sunk in my first reading, is that
Yeah.
Carolyn has to process so much grief from external sources all of the time. And I never really considered that until I started seeing it up close. And it's like a huge part because, people think that mediums, especially people who are skeptical about mediumship, they have a very skeptical view of it. But on her end, it's a lot of, she's always talking to people when they're at their worst, like, moments, when they're
Well, like with
suffering
Dana,
the
like
most.
I'll
Yeah.
talk about Dana for a second just because we're on the subject, but like with Dana specifically, like I felt like I didn't have the right to grieve for her in the same way as like everybody because she started out being my client.
Yeah.
And it's like so people think, "Oh, well that's probably really unprofessional," but she became my friend
Yeah.
because and it was like I was really determined to save her life. I
Yeah.
just but and I saw to such a depth in her body that I was correcting savant doctors that she was working with, like, they were making mistakes. These are literal savant doctors. Her husband's a doctor, and he had access to the best doctors, and I was catching psychically, like, because 'cause I'm a medical medium also, I was catching mistakes that very capable doctors were missing. And so I was determined, like, if anybody can save her, I can. Because
Yeah. It was really
she was
personal.
such an important person. Like, she was such a
Yeah.
special and unique person. And I just had a lot of like sisterly love for her. And that
Yeah.
grew over time. It's like the more you get to know somebody and the more you help them, the more you form a bond and you love them. And what was cool about Dana was that she knew she called me her mentor later, which was like a huge compliment because she's a genius of genius
Yeah.
level in intellect, and I admire her, and I think that she's an incredible human being and an incredible spirit. And you know, her husband too, I admire him. I admire them as a couple. They're just two of my favorite people. And I could feel his pain and I
Yeah.
couldn't take it away for him
Yeah.
and I couldn't ease it for her. It was just something I had to go through with them. And so, like, I was also her death doula. So, like, right after she passed, I was immediately reading for him. And so, like, you can't let your feelings like overshadow somebody who's that close to the
Yeah.
person who passed. You're not like, you've got to allow them to kind of like unload on you because that's your responsibility. As I mean, and I know I'm speaking as third person, that's kind of weird, but like, that's how I felt though.
Yeah. And
So
people
I
don't know
kind of
this.
grieved, right. So it's like I would go to bed and cry for like
Yeah.
a while and I would grieve and I would talk to her by myself and I felt guilty. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, but sometimes, I mean, we all die at some point. It's like
Yeah.
no matter how good we are at our job, it's like doctors don't save the lives of every person because eventually our bodies retire. And it's just like and expire, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
but it's hard, you know?
No, it is. I know. And it's like, I just think that people can so easily think that, being a medium means that you don't feel these things. But I think it means you're feeling way more than people notice. And then it's also other people all of the time. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's a really emotionally taxing job. And the emotional labor of it is like invisible and it's hard.
And there's also like parts of it, like if I open up my email and I see like hundreds of messages from people, like missing persons cases, for instance, like there's so many people in there that I know I will, like, I've got to get through my emails still. And it's like, I want to get back to everybody myself. I don't want to hire someone to get back to all of my
Yeah.
emails because I want it to be personal for me. Like, I feel like everybody deserves, like, anybody who reaches out to me deserves me back to
Yeah.
them. But I know that that's going to get increasingly more challenging the more people know about me. And like,
Yeah.
you know, because I made the news for Teresa Jones and everything in her case. And like, there's other things, there's projects that I'm working on now that may end up blowing things up a bit, you know,
Yeah.
in my world. So I may have to have somebody helping me with emails eventually. But I mean, even that, it's like I look at the numbers of emails that are coming in and it's just like, it's just heartbreaking because I know that
Yeah.
I won't, there's no way that I'll ever be able to help every single one of them, but they all deserve it and they
Yeah.
all, I want to. So
Yeah.
that's
And
like
that's really
that's the stuff
hard.
that's really hard for me. Like that's the stuff. Like that. Yeah, that's hard.
And have you guys noticed she's getting emotional? It's not like, this is something she cares about it super deeply. Because that was just something in the comments of that other video that kept coming up where people kind of think that, you don't get, but, she gets emotionally attached to all of the people that she works with. I mean, like not in the, yeah. So it is a lot. It's a lot of weight. Also, do you want me to ask the next question? Sorry, me and Carol had to take a short break. So we're coming back with the next question,
She had to
which
break because
is,
I started crying and I'm a big baby. So I'm
yeah.
sorry.
It's okay because it was an emotional question. It really was, and that's like this is an emotional topic, and it's emotional for us all. It's emotional for the people watching. It's emotional for me. It's emotional for you. But the next question was, and this one's kind of weird. Is there structure there? Like, is there a government? Are there rules?
Oh God, I hope not.
Yeah,
After everything we've been going through here for the
no, like no
past hour.
government, please, thank you.
Oh shit. No, I'm just gonna say that I hope there is not.
No, I have said that I'll
There
know it's
are
heaven if
rules
Bernie
though.
Sanders is president.
Yeah, Bernie. I love Bernie.
Yeah, but are
He's
there
the
rules? Are there?
best. Um, so I mean, there are, so I've been shown that there are rules sometimes. Like I think even communicating sometimes some things is like they're bending the rules. Sometimes it feels like they're
Yeah.
bending the rules, you know what I
No,
mean?
I feel like that
Um,
sometimes.
yeah, like they're not supposed to, like, I don't know. Like for a while I was like, are you supposed to be talking to me or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
because I mean, because they're not talking to everybody. That is, I've wondered about that too. I mean, I think the communication, obviously, you wouldn't have been recruited if they, you know what I mean? They wouldn't have tapped you,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a future video. So you just have to stay tuned for that one.
My nose
Um,
gets red when I cry, so I'm
no, mine
sorry. But
does
like,
too.
I
It doesn't
literally
look
just have
red.
to explain to people. I know I look like I got hit with a hot bag of nickels, but
No.
it's because I was thinking about like all the people who inbox me and I got emotional because I was thinking about like
Yeah.
everybody who's missing still that I haven't gotten to. And I know that that sounds really silly to some people, or maybe, I don't know. But I think if you tried to like understand, it's like every time that I locate somebody, and then people find out, and then everybody's like, "Oh my God, she located this person or she located that person," or so she can locate everyone. And
Yeah.
I want to. That's the thing is I want to. I want to, but I know that that's impossible because there's like thousands
And it's
and
not
thousands
just
of people
time. She
missing.
reaches the point where you can't keep reading. Like we have reached that point in readings where you just kind of like fall over and fall asleep. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yes.
like it's like there's not an unlimited amount of energy on your side for this.
It takes
Um,
a lot of focused energy when I like find somebody and when I locate somebody. And it's like, God, it's like remote viewing on steroids, you know? It's
Yeah.
way beyond remote viewing. Because when you remote view, you're just looking into spaces, and I can do that all the time. It's not, it takes little effort. But like remote viewing and being pulled around to specific areas and communicating with spirit at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just like all of it all at once. So
Yeah, it's like a
it's
lot.
it's hard to explain. I'm gonna have to find words in my book to articulate it better than I am right now, and I will. I think I write
Oh,
better than I
you're doing
speak,
really
but
well. Because that's
yeah,
one of the things that we were
thank
talking about is a lot of these answers aren't going to, and one of the things we don't want to do is a lot of people will talk about this stuff and they give a very 100% covered answer, but it doesn't really land because we know that people are different. You know what I mean? So we wanted to kind of give you guys more,
Well, this is
realistic
just I
information.
can't here's the thing,
Yeah.
I can't be not authentic, like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
BS anybody, so, like, if I don't know something, I'm not gonna pretend like I know it, and I think, like, I don't really appreciate when people do pretend like they know everything, it's, like, really freaking annoying,
Yeah, and
and,
it
like,
really bothers grieving people. It upsets grieving people more than
it
no
bothers me,
information
but I
because it
guess I
feels
could be
like a lot.
considered a grieving person. I've had a lot of loss, I mean, I'm
No,
no
I know.
different than anybody else except for that I can see and speak to dead people.
I
But
mean, I
anyway,
think grieving is, yeah, it's like a state that you're kind of always in. If somebody really important to you, if they die when you're young. Um,
mm.
there was the one about animals, which I
I don't
feel
think
like
you're
we can get to
always
later.
in it. I just think that, like, you're
No, but like,
living,
you know
but
what
then
I
it's
mean?
always there kind of in the background.
Yeah, it's always there
Yeah.
in the background. It's just it becomes
Mhm.
part of you.
Yeah.
But that also, because there was the question about animals, but the one after that was, um, so if people here are cruel and they cause a lot of pain to people, and let's say they cut off a lot of aid to Africa and a whole bunch of people die, are there? I'm not talking about any specific. I just pulled that out of the air. Are there
Nobody
consequences for people?
specific.
So
Okay.
a lot of people ask, and we got this
Oh,
question a lot. Like we got it in the comments, we got it on
yeah.
Facebook. People want to know, and I don't think it's necessarily. Basically, is there a natural consequence for if you're a person that inflicts a lot of
There is.
cruelty? Okay.
There is. Okay. So when you cross over, so if you don't pay for what you've done here, that's really, really awful, then you will be addressed with it when you pass. Like this is not, you can't get away from it. No,
Yeah, that's one of the
there
reasons
are
actually
consequences.
why when me and Carolyn have both said, like the first time we talked, we were both kind of like, oh, we're obviously going to have to do something together. But one of my first motivations, like in the very, very beginning, was,
Yeah.
I had a platform. I was a skeptic. I was a fact checker. And when we talked about this subject, I was like, yeah, obviously the afterlife isn't, what are you, 5? So part of the reason why I wanted is that exact reason, because I need to undo all of the misinformation that I did, like, or I spread about that, because I was really wrong and I was really convincing about it. So I made people like question their ideas and stuff, and that's fine, but I was wrong. So I have to correct the wrongness. So like that's what I'm
Well,
trying to do.
that's
But
just part
people,
of being human. Like we're all,
yeah,
I think, taking accountability when we grow and we can admit when we've been wrong, I
yeah.
mean, takes huge strength,
Yeah, it
and
was
it's
important to
also
me. It
very
wasn't even like it
humble.
wasn't like I wanted to correct it, because I was like, this is really important information. It changed the
Yeah.
trajectory of my life. It changed how I viewed things. And
Hmm.
I think if this information is available, people who want it should have it. And
Yeah.
that also, so like the question that was after that was because okay, so that made me think of the one that we got on Facebook too. Because I can't find it on the list right now. I'm trying to remember where I am on the list, but people, there was the one that we got about how how can, when they see us, what do they see? How do they see us and how do they perceive us? And is there a filter? Was part of the question. Like, do we look filtered to them?
Oh, like, is there a filter of what they walk into and what they look at? Or
Like,
is there a
does no
filter, like,
like
do they look
like is
different
there a
to us,
filter
like how
that makes
spirit
us
looks
look,
different? Yeah,
when
yeah,
they
yeah.
look at
That's
us,
such
do
a
we
cool
look pretty?
question.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a neat question. So my answer, because I'm sourcing from spirit now, actually, because you're asking me that, and I don't know the answer right off
No,
the
that's
top of
good.
my head. But so, because I've never really thought about that. So what I'm getting back right now is that there isn't a filter. Actually, our bodies are the filter. We're seeing who we truly aren't. Like which I guess how I could say is like this is a mask. Do you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like our bodies kind of mask our inner self, our true self. So like they're seeing us for who we truly are. Like, we don't
Okay.
even see ourselves for who we truly are. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that theory, like, we are all spirits in bodies.
Yeah.
So that's
And
like, if you go with that theory, it's like they're they're spirits and they're evolved and they're accessing your spirit in your body. So they're seeing you as who you are, like, naturally and organically and genuinely, and like without they see you as you. Like, they see your body. Okay, how can I explain? They do see your body. Okay?
okay.
They can see you. They can see your body. I guess I should, like, this is such a complicated and complex answer.
Yeah.
So they see who you genuinely are, who you truly are. They see your thoughts and feelings and like your emotions and what you're going through, and they can hear your thoughts.
Okay, wait.
And then
Can I just she's when she says that, that is so literal because I can't tell how many conversations have we had in the past month where before I had a chance to tell you what I was going to say, he told you everything and you told me before I told you. Like
yeah,
he pulled those things out of my head, like
yeah.
just background thoughts.
Yeah, and then people would probably argue, well, like, did he pull them out of your head or did Carolyn pull them out of your head? But either way,
Yeah.
like, whatever, I got the information.
Yeah,
And it
I
looked,
mean,
and it came through him to me. Like, it visually, it came through as him telling me the information. So I didn't feel like I was sourcing it from her.
yeah.
Um, like, I didn't feel like I was picking a crop or something, or like it was something I was like trying to grab. It just came through Joe telling me. But
Yeah.
so that's, I mean, I guess that could be argued, but either way, I was getting the information, yes. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know
it's like
what we're talking about, sorry.
we
Oh,
were
yeah, but
talking
they
about the
do
way
see us.
that they
Oh,
see
oh, oh,
us.
oh,
Because
right. Well, here, think about it this way. Like, remember, we'll like use you as this example, but like when I was first starting to read for you and Joe, um, he showed, can I share something?
yeah, yeah,
With
yeah,
it? Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So he showed me that like you kept a journal that was kind of like that you had decorated the outside of the journal, right?
Yeah.
And he walked me through everything that was on the outside of her journal, like everything that she decorated her journal with.
Oh
Like
yeah, and
he
then I
was
showed
telling
you.
me,
Yeah.
and then you showed me afterwards. But it was like all these really unique things, because right, like I mean,
Yeah.
it's Kim's,
And there was like it was a
like
collage. There was a bunch of things.
there was a
Yeah.
collage, yeah. And so, and he had told me like, oh my God, you know, she put on this lipstick, you know, before she sat with me. So he told me, like, he took me through the whole thing of what Kim did and like what lipstick you were wearing and how you took it off and how you put a different lipstick on that was like new. And he described the color and he described what she was wearing. He told me like what she had put on first and how she had changed her outfit because she was going to be meeting with him potentially. And like she dressed for the occasion and it was so
Yeah.
sweet. And so because she put time and like care into what she was wearing for Joe, he wanted her to know like, hey, I see you. Like I saw you do that for me and you looked gorgeous before that and now you look way sexier. And like then he let her know what things were what his favorite thing was for
Yeah.
her to wear, and he described that. And people will take me through, oh gosh, like yes, they see your space, they see what you're wearing, they see,
I think
they
one
just
of the
see, they
reasons
can access all of it. Yeah.
yeah, because people ask this too, I think, and I think the way the context it came up in is with there are a lot of young widows. I mean, that's the people that I talk to most. And young widows are people
It's so
typically like under
sad.
the age of 65. Yeah, but I think the fear is they
So
stopped
sad.
aging, but we don't, right? So
Oh, that's
when
so
I'm,
fair. Yes.
so they're like, are they going to ever look at us and be like, oh, they got older? I think that that's probably not a factor,
Yes,
but you
you
know
are
what I mean?
robbing the cradle.
That's what
And
I
I'm
always
just
think.
kidding.
I always say that,
I'm
but it's
just,
like,
I'm just playing with you. No.
yeah, but that's like
I
because
mean, I
people are
know it's
afraid
a
of that.
really hard and sensitive topic, and I shouldn't joke about it, but it is funny
Oh,
because like here they would naturally joke with you about it. But yeah.
yeah, but the way that I described that
No,
once when
you're
it came up
never
for
less attractive because they're
yeah,
seeing your soul, they're seeing you. Look, okay, how do I put this? Life and these bodies and everything look really different over there. The
yeah,
whole idea around bodies and our life here looks very different over there. So the kind of judgment or fears or whatever that we have here, those don't cross over with us because you're evolving. So yeah, like when they look at you, even if you've aged, even if they died when they were 25 and you're now 83, like
Yeah.
you're still their love. And when
Yeah,
you
like the
cross
way
over, this part of your body's gone. So like you're part of your person, your soul, this part goes away. So it's like
yeah.
no, the age thing, no, that doesn't
Yeah, because
matter at all.
the way that I've described that to people, and we've had, because we discussed this in I'm in a group of people like me, and we discuss this a lot. And I said it would be like if you were doing yard work all day and you came inside and you had twigs in your hair and you were covered in mud. It's not like your boyfriend would be like, "Ew, forget it, I'm done." You know what I mean? Because it's a temporary state, right?
Yes, said no man
Yeah,
ever. But
yeah.
yeah, also no woman.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
that's, we don't abandon people, like, because it's a
uh,
temporary thing. And then also there was
yeah.
okay, yeah, so this is the other one that we were talking. Are they still themselves? And that was like the tea story. I can't even remember if we got into it. I was saying he was arguing,
Oh my
but are they
God.
still
I know you
themselves?
guys want them to be better than they were here, but they're totally them. And like
Wait,
some
okay, so
people
also
do in
other
truth.
Carolyn, other mediums say that spirits never feel anger or frustration on behalf of us or just in general, but like, is that true? Do they not feel any
Man,
emotions?
I mean, no, like it's totally opposite. Like everybody that I talk to has emotion. I mean, they were
Yeah.
like, yeah, like they feel. And, no, they're not just like these
Like
emotionless
inner,
beings that are,
yeah.
yeah, no,
I
no.
have
I mean,
said too,
like
I think,
they come through with like their quirks and they come through with their sense of humor, or they also, geez, I've had people come through that have gotten jealous, like honestly, and like,
yeah.
um, but they also have an understanding that like you can't visually see them, and so like they have access to you that you don't have to them, which
Yeah.
they also can empathize with. So like, yeah, no, that's interesting to me that like certain proclaimed mediums would claim that people
Very
have no.
strongly. Like they insist on it.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
and I think I don't I'm not a fan of like knocking people down or
No, I
stepping
know.
on people to get ahead or to
No, we're just talking
sound
about
better.
information. Yeah. We're not talking about specific mediums. We're just saying like
No,
informationally because
I want to address this though.
yeah.
I believe that if that's what you think and that's what you're seeing, you're just not as good as you think you are because you're not accessing the levels beyond. You're not able to dig beyond what
It's
you're
like
seeing in front of you.
platitudes.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Okay. So again, I haven't really studied this field. It's just I've learned from working it.
You've been working it for 15 years.
Right.
You're
I
like, what do
work
I
it.
know? I've only been doing readings for 15 years.
But I mean, I'm being taught as I
No, I know.
go. And
Yeah.
but I don't study and I don't read books on it and I don't watch the shows on it and stuff. So I mean like again, I will just say that I'm ignorant to the field right now until I'm done with my book. Um Outside of my own experiences and people that I've talked to. And I do read for other mediums and stuff like that too. So I have heard some of this before. And yeah, I think just like some people can, there's different levels of ability.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not saying that, okay, yeah, I'm kind of saying like I'm right and they're wrong. So I really do think that if they're not able to access that stuff, that is not like, no, your loved one has no emotions anymore and da 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 da. No, it's what they should be saying is, I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything about that. Like they shouldn't blame spirit
Yeah.
or make a blanket statement saying no, like nobody sees. No, it's just no, you're not seeing it. Like that's a mistake on your end, and that's okay. It's okay to
Yeah.
not be able to see past a certain point. It's okay to only be able to offer this much of something that you can do. It's okay to have limits, you know what I mean? And it's okay to keep learning. Like when we have limits, just keep learning, like keep
Yeah.
practicing, keep doing, keep at it, you know what I mean? And just
That's how this
keep
started because
going.
you had
Right.
to flex in the middle of that reading. And that was like a whole bunch of other stuff opened up because you were able to be like, okay, I this is the first time I've gotten this question, let me look. You know what I mean? You weren't like, oh no, no, you have to,
Yeah,
it's your thing now.
right, like here. I'll talk about myself in that way. Like, I didn't know that I could do medical readings until I did them. Like, I was driving in my vehicle with my kid in the car, and this is not safe. And I'm not saying that anybody else should be like this because this is really stupid. But a friend of mine from high school, I didn't know her mom. I never knew, actually, I didn't even know she had a mom. I didn't know if her mom was dead or alive. We never talked about her mom, ever, ever. Never met her, never, whatever. She lived with her grandmother, in high school and in college. So, like, I just didn't know a mom existed here for, clearly
Yeah.
everybody has a mother, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, you had no concept of her mom.
Right. Thank you. So I was driving and my son was in the car with me and he was little. And this girlfriend called me and she was like, "Oh my God, Carolyn." She's like, "Can you please?" She knew about my gift because I had read for her. And so she knew the evidence that came through me was really, really high and she trusts me. And so she was like, "My mom's really sick. I need your help." And I'm like, "Wait, your mom? Like, who?" Right? And she's like, "Yeah, my mom's really sick. Just can you please, can you just tell me what's happening? Can you like medically read her? Like, can you see what's going on?" And I was like, "Girl, I don't know." I'm like, "I can't, I don't know. I don't think I can do that." And she was like, "Can you try, please?" It took somebody I love, like that I hold
Yeah.
dear to my heart, like, kind of begging me while I'm driving. She was like, "Please, please, 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 just try. Just try." And I was like, "Okay, okay, like, just, like, shut up for a second." Like, she didn't tell me anything about it. She's just like, "Please try and tell me because I don't know what the fuck's going on with my mom." So, I closed my eyes for a second. I was driving. Like, I do not recommend. I'm just saying. Like, I closed my eyes for a second and I was able to, like, literally just a second, but I was able to see her mom in my head and she's alive. And then I was able to, they took me straight to her bladder and they showed me, her bladder had very dark urine and it was like brown. And they showed me, her bladder, like there was bacteria. They showed me the bacteria in her urine, which I know sounds really strange, but I could see the bacteria. I knew that it would show up as like white and stuff like that. So it's like, anyways, they showed me the bacteria. And then they showed me the bacteria moving into her vesicular system, her veins. Okay. And then it started to spread. Then they showed me a clock, and the clock had the number three. It pointed to the number three. It didn't mean 3 o'clock. I was like, three. I asked them 3 o'clock or 3 hours. 3 hours. And then they showed me emergency room, and they were like, get her there within 3 hours or she's going to die. She's sepsis. And then they showed me, there's different ways that they showed me, but they showed me broad spectrum antibiotics, intravenous, da 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 da. So I told her, I'm like, this is what you need to do. Okay. Your mom has a bladder infection that's gone sepsis. You need to get her into the ER within 3 hours or she's going to die. You need to tell them that they need to put her immediately on broad spectrum antibiotics and da 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 da. She's like, how can I tell them to do this? And I'm like, I don't know, girl. Tell them that you see things weird. Like I told her, take the credit that I'm like,
Yeah.
you tell them that this is your instinct. Like you don't have to tell them about me or tell them about me or I don't care. Just like get them to do it. So she did it. She got her mom in there. She told them about what came through me and they listened. And then they tested
My
her. They
doctor
put
did
her on
too.
antibiotics. Yeah.
Like
And
my
so in
primary, I mean. Yeah.
right. Oh, yeah, right, about your heart. Yes, I
After my
forgot
heart
about
attack,
that.
yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay. So, which is really interesting. So, yeah, like, wait, why the hell did we get on this topic?
We were talking about medical mediumship and we were talking about the
Oh,
I trying to
right,
remember
right.
the
No,
original
so
thing.
I don't always know what I can do. The point is like I
Yeah.
didn't know that I could do that until I tried, and then all of a sudden I could do it, and then it just happened over and it's just like then I could do it, and then I realized
Yeah.
what depth I could go into. It wasn't just like little things like that or quick emergencies like that. Like I could literally focus my energy, and I saw other beings behind me when I was doing that, which I came to know are doctors. Okay. So I work
Yeah.
with doctors in spirit. It was just somebody needed to push me. So I think like if you assume like you know everything
Yeah.
already and like you've read books and they've told you this, so this is how it
This is actually good advice for developing mediums too, because I don't know that anybody tells them that. Like, don't assume you know and keep look. You know what I mean? They who knows what people say when they're training. But if somebody is a developing medium, that's probably great advice because it. I saw it happen in my first reading, and obviously the medical thing, she does, and we were talking because medical readings, they can't be faked. Obviously, if Carolyn was, faking anything, and that person, none of these medical things would work out. But medical readings are really interesting for that reason. But you wouldn't have probably done any of them if it weren't for that one time where you were like, okay, I'll try, I'll try. You know what I
Or
mean? Like
maybe,
that's
yeah, or
interesting.
maybe something else, likely somebody else or something else would have still pushed me in that direction because I do a lot of medical readings now and I work with a lot of doctors and things. So it's like something would have pushed me, but it
Yeah, we
happened to
see
be
that that
Jill, you
happens.
know?
So like we see that happen all the
Right,
time with us though. It's like no
right.
matter what, like, you just get pushed towards one thing.
Yeah, like the
Um,
outcome would have happened no matter what somehow, but it was Jill that pushed me into seeing that, you know? So,
yeah,
but yeah. So
but that
I'm just saying
also,
like don't assume that you even know your own like where your own cap is or your own ceiling is with your abilities or
yeah,
anything. Like I don't like the platitude thing. I think it's really
yeah, it
bad.
could be, and it could be like people could be self-limiting because of that. Because like you
Yeah.
you developed all by yourself, and a lot of people
Or
they have the intent to do it.
if people are like if they accept mediums telling them that and they're like, "Oh, well then this is just how it is."
Yeah, no, that
That's
is true
sad
because that
too.
happens. We
Yeah.
That's happened with us too, where I've told you something that a medium has said, and you're like, wait, what? Because it was like there's like little things like
Yeah.
that. And there was a question that
Ooh,
was
you know the other thing that is like a huge pet peeve of mine that I just can't stand?
what?
I'm telling you a secret. So, like getting in real close, like you're right here. But like something that I really don't appreciate is when certain like certain proclaimed mediums
Yeah,
say that they refuse to work in darkness, that they only stay in the
yeah.
light. That is
Okay,
such a crock of,
I was gonna
you know
jump to a
why?
different question.
Well, I just want to say, you
No,
know
finish. Yeah,
why? Because life is a balance between good and
yeah,
bad. And if you are unwilling or unable to access or unwilling to access either side of that,
yeah,
why are you in this field? Like, what a
yeah.
cop out. Anyways,
No, I
what
agree.
now?
I agree.
That
But
really
that
is a pet peeve
also
of mine.
it doesn't really work well with people who are actively like really grieving because that first of all they're existing in a dark place, so you know what I mean, so they feel rejected off the
Yeah,
bat, and then all their
exactly.
dark feelings, and so it's like you
Yeah,
can't
it's like, oh
believe that
no,
in
I only
yeah,
work in the light because I'm just too good for the dark. It's like,
yeah, and then the person who's grieving is like, well,
it's
what
like,
about me?
girl,
Yeah,
bye. I don't think so. You are not above pooping and you are
yeah,
not above darkness or sad days. I'm sorry,
yeah,
but
because
you're not.
everybody, and it's like even like in the
It's
Bible,
just a
like, and
cop out.
I'm not a religious person, but I did
Right.
go to Catholic school. And Jesus had dark moments. Like I remember that he was like wandering around in the desert or something, having, my catechism
Oh
happened
my
very early.
gosh.
So you know what I,
Wandering
because like
around in the
I
desert.
was telling my mom like. Because I was so
Girl.
young, I got kicked out of Catholic school when I was in fourth grade. So,
Gee,
like,
I wonder
I'll
why.
remember.
I'm just
Well,
kidding.
so for a lot of reasons, but
Wow.
my mom actually she said no, I pulled you out because
We can
they
fix
weren't
that
being
in
nice.
editing. Just
But one
kidding.
of the reasons that like the so like like with Mary Magdalene, they were like, oh yeah, well Mary
Mm,
Magdalene had a lot of boyfriends. So that's like how I understood her until I was an adult.
yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
didn't know the word. And then also like with Saul and Paul, he got into a lot of fights. He was a mercenary. You know what I mean? They couldn't tell us that when we were in first grade. So my understanding
Yeah.
is, but that there was one of the questions that was on the list was about because I was going to go to the one about how they find you, but that goes to the one about evil spirits, and we talked about this, and one of the questions that we got was whether darkness actually exists in the afterlife, like outside of religion, outside of everything else. Are there dark areas or dark energies or anything like that that because people do say it's all love and light, so
I
like where
think
does
that,
everything else go?
yeah, and I want to continue this. I have to go for now. I'd like
Yeah,
to continue this. Do you mind like continuing it on our
no,
next
we can,
episode?
we're talking about doing a part two. Yeah, let me just see if
Yeah.
there's, oh wait, hold
We're at
on
about like an
there.
hour and a half, but I do have to bounce just
Yeah,
because it's late and I
can
have
I
to
just
go.
ask, can I ask you the last question, the one that you thought was not, because there are a ton more, but because I
Yeah.
think this one is important for everybody watching. Can you annoy a spirit by thinking about them too much?
No, never.
And is my husband hanging out with hot girls in heaven?
Fuck yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Always.
No, I
Tyler's
know
like
because
a
he's hanging out with
he's like a
you.
chick magnet.
No, no, he always is. But yeah,
No,
so you can't. So
but
even if a
it's
person
like,
thinks, does it annoy
but
them
it
when you think
doesn't.
about them?
No, it doesn't annoy them when you think about them. I feel like it actually like makes them feel good. Like
Oh,
it's
okay,
kind of like
good because I'm
turn it
not going to
around. Wait,
stop.
wait, no, 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 no. Just turn it around. Like, could they ever think about you too much?
I don't know because I don't. Okay, no, but the answer is no in any universe. However, I don't know what when we think about them. Do they get like a notification? Is it like getting hit in the head? Is it like do they forget that? You know what I mean?
Well, think about it this way too, Ken. So sometimes, like, so I can see spirit and everything. It's not like every time I like spirit stops by that I see them. Sometimes I just think of them and I know that they're here. So in a way, it's like when you think about them, it could be them coming to you as well. So they might have
Oh,
thought
okay,
of you
yeah. People
first.
have said that. Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
so it's like it's kind of like the chicken or egg theory. It's kind of like when you're
Yeah.
thinking about calling somebody and then they call you before you have the chance to call them. So,
Okay, that
I
has
don't know.
not only does that happen with you all the time, but sometimes like when I'm in Zoom or I'm talking to somebody, I'll say your name and then your chime because I have a special chime for Carolyn on my
And
phone
they
and then
do feel you and sense you when you're
yeah.
thinking about them really, really strongly. If you're having a passing thought, maybe not, but it's like, yeah, like when you're intensely thinking about them or whatever, you're like calling them basically. You're calling
Oh,
them into
cool. Okay.
you.
Yeah, so
So,
because that's the other thing before we because we have to close out the episode
yeah.
and one thing I asked Carolyn in the beginning is they can always hear us, right? So like if you're missing your person, whether it's your mom, your dad, whoever it is, you can always talk to them. They can always hear you, right? I just want to double check that, like for sure. So
Yeah,
like
it's
right
like when
now,
you're thinking about them really strongly and you're putting their energy out there and you're imagining them and you're thinking about them like you're saturated with them. You're calling them essentially. So,
yeah, that's so cool. Okay. And then
mm,
also, so we didn't get to all the questions, so we'll probably do a part two, but can you guys please, if we missed anything in
we
the
will.
comments
We'll
or
do
if
a
you have
part 2.
sub questions, yeah, we'll definitely do a part two. But in the comments, leave any questions that you have, things that we missed, or if there's something where you're like, wait, go back to that, because in the second part, we can go into that stuff too. So we can do that. Yeah, and I don't want to keep Carolyn up all night. So we're going to put
Tired.
this episode up and please let us know because we want to answer these questions. I mean, for Carolyn, I think it's because she gets them and also because she cares about everybody. And for me, it's because I know what it's like. And, I think, I mean, because I have Carolyn and we're really close friends, it's a little bit different, but I still torture myself with questions. And it's been 8 years. And, so
Yeah.
like, don't think you're weird. Okay. So thank you for
No, you're not
watching us, you
weird.
guys.
Totally
Yeah. And
normal.
please let us know what more questions you have because we only got to a few of them because they had some long answers and they were really interesting. And yeah, so thank you for watching and please like and
Thank
subscribe because we need to
you.
hit all of YouTube's metrics. And yeah, thanks.
Yes,
Bye.
please share with your friends and subscribe. Love you. Bye.